Hello and welcome to the Digital Lounge. It's Thursday, the 23rd of November. Only 5 weeks left to Christmas, believe it or not. Can you believe that? Today we are live from Crimson's offices in Birmingham, and we are talking about the digital leadership report that's recently been published. We're part of Nash Squared. So this is a fantastic piece of content. Just a few statistics for you. This report has now been running for 25 years, has gathered the opinions of over 50,000 technology leaders. This report is 40 pages long, 2,104 responses this year across 80 countries with 160,000 data points. So what we're going to try and do today is distill that down into one podcast to give you a summary of the most important points from the report. All of that today on the Digital Lounge. So joining me today on the show is Louise Clark and Tom Cadman, both from Crimson. Welcome aboard. Hi, how you doing both?
Hi, Mark. Hi, Tom.
Hi, you both. We thought this would be a really great opportunity to get the perspective of both the people element and the technology element in this. Of course, technology only works when people are at the forefront of that. So I'm hoping that we're going to get some really interesting insight. I'm sure we will get some interesting insight from both of you today. So thank you for joining us. So I think this comes at a really interesting time. And when we had the autumn statement yesterday, clearly the economy is flatlining, productivity is still struggling in the UK. So the reports, the DLR, as we lovingly call it, reveals that 45% of tech leaders are expecting a budget increase in 2024, which is slightly down on the previous year of 52%. And I think a lot of the statistics we've seen in the report are wobbling about a little bit since COVID. I think that it's important to highlight, though, there are some sectors that are bucking that trend, certainly manufacturing, technology sector, utilities. And they're actually saying they're expecting a bigger budget increase. Tom, if I could come to you first of all, what do you think the reason is for the majority saying they don't want to increase budgets?
I think it's fair to say, Mark, we are now coming back to a level playing field with pre-COVID. So we're starting to see that element. You can't underestimate the economic challenges that are out there, as you alluded to. And dare I say, people are looking at it in terms of their spend, in terms of focusing it, in terms of where they're going to get value for money. We're back to the traditional world of, dare I say, justification of your business benefits case based on, is it going to increase your revenue, your organization, is it increase efficiency, or have I got regulatory challenges? So you're starting to see coming back into, I said, a pre-COVID era and a leveling off in terms of that side. I also think you've got a lot of organisations out there, they've already started their big initiatives previously around cloud and things, and they're now looking to reap the benefits of those investments as well in terms of that side. So there is a channel shift in that respect. Yeah.
And Louise, from the sort of recruitment side, I mean, we always say recruitment's the barometer really of the economy. You get that early indication. Is that what you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think the last 12 months have definitely seen a slowdown actually in IT leaders, really. I think really just making sure that every hire they make is crucial to what their needs are. And also I think they're a little bit hesitant to go too far down the sort of the permanent employee route, because they're not 100% sure where, or what I should say, the skills are going to look like further on down that digital journey. So I think they're a little bit hesitant to go too 2 feet into hiring lots of permanent people anyway at the moment. We've definitely seen that trend. We have seen a slight buck though with regards to utilities, manufacturing, technology type industries and companies. We've definitely seen a lot more investment coming from those particular organizations. But yeah, I agree with Tom. I think we're seeing a little bit of a normalization actually of sort of pre-pandemic type recruitment.
Okay, and I suppose staying on the topic of headcount, the DLR report is saying 50% of organisations in the survey expect their headcount to increase in 2024. 12% are expecting their headcount to decrease. What do you see the predictions for next year, Louise, around that point?
Yeah, I think it goes to what I've just said really a little bit as well. I think we've definitely seen an increase in customers being a lot more variable in their hiring. So they've been using all types of resourcing methods, such as interim, fixed term, contract type work, as well as the permanent work. We have seen a slowdown in the market for the last 12 months. We see that continuing slightly over the next 0 to 6 months, but we hope and can see that that's going to start turning sort of from springtime onwards next year. And on that point, I think they've just been more cautious, really, generally, I think, in terms of understanding what their digital roadmap and IT roadmap is going to look like, what types of skills they're going to need during any implementations of solutions or digital transformation, and what they're going to need in terms of skills when those are completed. And effectively also, we've noticed companies really, really needing to just look at the retention of their own employee base as well. So more hesitant to bring in more new people with new skills where they may have people that they can upskill within their organisation.
And I think this echoes the next point really around skills shortage. So this report has tracked for a number of years skills shortages and how that's hindering leaders' plans. This year, 54% of digital leaders say that a skills shortage is likely to hinder those plans. But interestingly, this is down from a record high of 70%. And again, Tom, I think this might touch on that pandemic sort of factor there. But they're just teasing out some of that data: big data analytics, data engineering, enterprise solution architecture, technical architecture. They're considered to be still the most scarce. And now cyber would ordinarily be in the top 3. So there seems to be a shift going on there, Tom. Is that something that you're seeing in boardrooms?
I think you're seeing it, Mark. I think your cyber is always going to be there. I think equally, there's a lot of organisations have already been out there putting plans in place, putting their mitigations in place already. There's also that challenge that people not unnecessary advertising that potentially cyber attacks, because obviously reputational risk and financial consequences, etc. So you're seeing an element of that, but I think equally a lot of people also relying on, as they moved into sort of cloud services and cloud providers, they're also relying upon those cloud providers like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, whatever. Equally, they've got a lot of that perimeter defense as well, including their estates. So there's elements of that channel shift as well as they've moved forward. Yeah.
Okay. And Louise, I mean, are you finding it difficult to find those skills at the moment, the ones that we sort of talked about?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, enterprise and solutions architecture, big data, data engineering has been quite a difficult skill to recruit generally for the last couple of years. To be fair, I do agree that the terminology of a sort of skill shortage. We're seeing less and less of that. There's some extremely good candidates on the market. It's definitely more a buyer's market at the moment than sort of 12, 18 months ago, when candidates were most definitely kind of dictating, levels of spend in terms of salary expectations and premium rates. But in terms of those analytics, data engineering, architect roles, most definitely still finding those to be the hard to find skill sets. But there are some really good quality candidates out there for companies to invest in. I think they're just erring on the side of caution with regards to which areas they're particularly wanting to bring on.
Okay, well, and I know we'll drill into some of that detail in January with our salary survey. I know we're busy building that report at the moment around salaries, so I'm sure we'll talk about that again soon, Louise. Just on the point of on cyber security, really, it was quite surprising to see that cyber attacks have declined since last year. It was 23% in 2023, 28% in 2022. Does that correlate, Louise, with the sort of demand for skills?
I think I agree with Tom, actually. I think organizations are probably just seeing cyber attacks and cybersecurity generally as more of a BAU exercise than a sort of luxury, as it was before in terms of a necessity, I should say. We have had a few customers actually who have come to us with quite urgent requirements to build teams to support data and security threats. So that's been a positive thing from our side, obviously, to be able to support those customers. But I agree with Tom. I think that the cyber security attacks as such have probably been less publicised than before, but are possibly more apparent in the day-to-day BAU side of things. In terms of skills particularly, we've not seen a major upturn in requests for cybersecurity, just general really good security specialists, really.
And Tom, in terms of the sophistication of cyber attacks, the report hints that it's becoming certainly a lot more sophisticated in terms of who and how they are attacking organizations.
It is, Mark, and very much so. And equally, dare I say, it's not just I call it the technical attacks. It's, dare I say, where they're coming in and doing a lot more of, say, phoning up people individually and trying to going through those software attacks. We see it obviously just in the organizations. You see it on the personal level. We hear the scare stories out there in terms of people that obviously been losing money in the banks or being scammed, etc. But it's the sophistication, I think, is more the thing, and understanding the different natures and how they're coming in. I think the technical things with malware and phishing attacks and things like that, people have put all those things in play around an organization, but I think it's the human attack elements you're still going to be mindful
agreed.
of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to turn our attention now to the topic of the year, AI. And I know, Tom, you've been on some of the previous podcasts talking about AI. It's been something that we've just not been able to escape this year from Microsoft and elsewhere. So the report highlights that just 10% of organizations have a large-scale AI implementation in place at the moment. Now, just bearing in mind the survey was conducted over the summer period, so there's a little bit of lag on the data. It says 4 in 10, that's 42% of organizations, feel unprepared for generative AI. And there are concerns about regulation and data privacy. Tom, is this an alarming statistic for you that you feel organizations aren't ready for generative AI? And what approach should they be taking?
Well, there's two things there, Mark. There's obviously the data governance aspect of understanding how your staff are using AI, both in generative, etc. You need to distinguish between, dare I say, the public AI services, ChatGPT, where you're out there and you're interacting with a public AI service, distinct from where Microsoft have been quite clever with their Copilot, for example. People think it's using the public AI. It's not. It's using, Microsoft have taken a copy of ChatGPT, brought it internally. It is ring fenced within your organization. So you're only interacting with that side. And then obviously you get the benefits of then integrating into your Microsoft 365 estate, into your Windows desktop, into your app building experiences, etc. The key one there is about understanding the governance. Dare I say, you go in and turn on Copilot for now in your Office 365 environment. Actually, what it's doing behind the scenes is actually using all of the search capabilities that were there already in Office 365 with, if you went into SharePoint search, Office, the graph services, it's extending all of that stuff out and bringing it to the fore. The challenge comes more business governance around, dare I say, I think what was the example I heard the other day? People are going in, using it to build sales proposals. Great, it's bringing all that stuff to me. But then you're creating another document that goes back into the model, and then you've got another. You're almost adding layers and layers and layers of documents around it. It's those sort of, I call it softer governance processes, how you use it, training your staff in terms of the appropriateness of where it adds in, and also just making sure in terms of the dare I say, privacy considerations in terms of what you're putting out there. People are paranoid about, you see it all now in terms of copyright, in terms of those sort of constraints, etc. And I know with Microsoft, for example, they are basically backing their technology in privacy, and they've basically put in, they will legally underwrite their AI services in terms of copyright infringements, etc., because they know the data is only coming from your organization's data center, data sources. So they've been quite clever and augmented with external. So it's just understanding those data governance challenges, security, your data sets, what you're bringing into the AI models. So if it's not in this case, your Microsoft estate, and you want to bring in data from your other systems, then obviously it's understanding that strategy forward. Again, it's big data. In the old days, we used to call it big data. It's the same plans, but bringing that data forward, and the generative models then, learning from that and utilizing that data over and above, etc. And ultimately, dare I say, using it in the right use cases. Sitting down, understanding the use cases where it's appropriate for your organization. We do a lot of work with universities. We talk about the use cases in HE, and equally do the same with other industry sectors.
Yeah. It does feel like there are organisations still trying to get their hands around this concept, aren't they, at the board? And
I think the way to, and again, obviously we're a Microsoft partner, but the way Microsoft describe it, it is Copilot on your side. It's there to assist you. It's there as that sitting on your shoulder. It's providing that guidance, providing the help, but you still need to, dare I say, review what you're taking and the usual human factor that sits around things before you apply it. Don't just take it blindly. You've got to make sure those sort of factors are in play.
So, Louise, I mean, we're seeing leaps and bounds from the likes of Microsoft with AI developments. How's that reflecting in recruitment at the moment? What are you seeing from customers there?
Yeah, great question. We haven't necessarily seen a notable demand for candidates to have AI skills, because I think people are still working out a lot about what that means. But we've most definitely had customers more interested in us, I suppose, preparing candidates to genuinely be able to articulate what understanding and what interest and what do they know about AI, and what is going to be possible within organizations, and some more than others. And I think the big sort of message at the moment is for customers not to want to panic, not to want to think they need to be pushing a huge roadmap forward necessarily right now, but most definitely taking a valid interest in what that means to their business. And to Tom's point around the public use, and people just, especially some of my the generations within my team, sort of in that Gen Z generation, they're so quick to use anything which is going to help support their day-to-day role, work, etc., so that my team and themselves are actually embracing using using AI to support and aid. And we actually have just launched our own change program around what the future of AI could be in the recruitment sense, how we can actually use, like Tom said, really, to actually assist in how do we get to our customers and candidates much more effectively? How do we really qualify using AI more effectively and help train some of our newbies joining the organization? And the reason for that is to give more time back, to make things more human-centric. So to Tom's point again, not to replace that human element to the relationship piece, but most definitely to assist in those things which you can get there a little bit faster and quicker and with more accuracy on. But in terms of candidates, we haven't had a massive upshift in demand for AI skills. It's just that really, advice to candidates to really be really mindful and aware, and really start to do a lot of work on it, and research themselves to show that awareness and understanding. But that probably will change in the next 12 months.
I think the one there, in terms of candidates, is there say, and I've seen it ourselves on our recruitment side when working with Louise and the team, is you get the perfect CV in. It's obviously been generated through ChatGPT and AI, and that's where the human factor, even on that 100%. Side of the fence, you've got to go in and look at that and assess it. When we do, in terms of universities, you see it all the time, personal statements, and obviously Turnitin has been out there for years into plagiarism checks and things. It's thinking in terms of all those considerations as well. So the other side of it, in terms of those assessments, when you're reading a document on the other side of the fence, is it too good to be true?
It's a great point, Tom. And actually, I think this is where our customers will be demanding more qualification, even more robust selection processes with regards to us as recruiters, because if we're just think we're going to get away with just sending CVs, which, like you say, Tom, have really not got that personality, or they haven't been brought to life with further qualification, further consultancy by the consultant, then that's not going to be satisfactory for customers. So we've got a real focus on using AI to help us get to the best people, and obviously qualify those best people, but we will still need to use that human element to the consultancy piece to really ensure that we're bringing forward those characters and personalities fit for purpose as well.
Yeah, so some big shifts ahead, I think, and it just that's
it's a great opportunity, though.
Yeah, fantastic opportunity, and I suppose it does also highlight those sort of unintended consequences to technology sometimes as well, doesn't it? Okay, so moving on to another aspect of the report, which I thought was really interesting, was there seems to be an increase in those CIOs and IT directors becoming a member of the executive committee, executive board. Now, clearly, transformation is the buzzword for the last few years, and a lot of people are getting involved with that sort of digital transformation piece. Do we think that role of the leader, that IT leader, is changing, Tom? And that's as a consequence of that demand on that sort of transformative approach to digitization.
It is, Mark. I think it's fair to say, obviously, the heart of every organisation, therein lies IT systems, processes. It's recognising the IT leaders who've got that business focus, but understand how tech applies into their organisation and can lead their board colleagues in terms of where it's appropriate and applicable. Digital transformation has been around, as you said, for years. We're now seeing digital combined with AI transformation. It's providing that thought leadership across to your exec board members, and dare I say, managing expectations is always a good one, and obviously recognising the investments that's required in an organisation as they go forward, and how they apply technology, but appropriate technology. That's the important message there, and they're leading them. But it is very much business IT in that context. And I've always said it on a few podcasts. Technology, on the one hand, is getting easier on this point of views, but it's understanding the magnitude of the technology and how it applies across an organization, from dare I say, AI, big data, down to sort of standard processes, low code, no code, solutions architecture. It's those composite of skills that are being brought that on a board level you're now looking forward to, that can manage the strategy, the roadmap, align it to the business objectives and things. It's making sure all those things come together.
It's it sounds very broad, Louise. It must be a struggle to find those unicorns to help organizations.
I agree with Tom. I think for a long time now, over the last sort of 8 years, I think the technology presence within the board has been ever more than before. Gone are the days when we used to have quite a siloed business ops IT sort of model and setup, and those businesses that still operate in that way are most definitely on the back foot. I do think it's about the role of a tech leader for the board and the exco is very much around simplifying it, demystifying what digital actually means. And some customers I've been working with recently have really been quite bold to say, it's about making sure that you are really understanding what the understanding is within your own board. You can be the technology expert and give the art of the possible and define the roadmap, but unless they understand it and you've demystified it for them, it can make it a very confusing landscape. So being bold as a tech leader to do a digital maturity assessment and to work out what actually does your board understand. Are they on the same page? Are they all singing from the same hymn sheet? I think is a really important thing to do. So actually simplifying that awareness and understanding, I think, is a priority for tech leaders.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Well, just if you're listening to the show today and thinking, I really want to download this report, and by the way, there are sector league tables at the back, regional league table, loads of ways to benchmark your own organization. If you're listening to this on the podcast, if you use the bit.ly link, bit.ly/DLR23, DLR in capital letters, you'll be able to download the report from there and have the opportunity to benchmark your organization against others. Okay, so moving on then to working in the office.
Yeah.
So the report's highlighting that 6 in 10 organizations now have a policy for employees to be in the office at least 1 day a week, with larger organizations being more likely to have that policy. Now, the interesting bit here is that 27% more women have been hired in the last 2 years for those organizations with a policy of 1 to 2 days in the office versus working maybe 5 days a week. And I think this has shone a light on that diversity question. Louise, how are you seeing organizations navigate those choices and understand that implication?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be fair, the pandemic was like a breath of fresh air for most people like myself who have worked in recruitment and IT recruitment for many, many, many years, 20 odd years. And being a working mum myself, you know, it's always been a real challenge to convince organizations that they should adopt more flexible working practices. So actually the pandemic kind of accelerated that for many organizations. And I'm pleased to say it's been a real positive impact in that regard. And absolutely, you know, hybrid working massively improves diversity. It enables organizations to reach out to people far beyond their traditional paths in the past. However, that said, you know, I think it's becoming more and more challenging for our customers and, you know, even us as a business to really get that fine balance between everything from what does it say on your working contract to travel and you know, cost of travel and this, that and the other. So I think organizations are going to probably over the next 12, 18 months go through a bit of a journey in terms of how they define that working balance. I think we're all kind of still very much in that flexible mindset at the moment. However, that said, we have seen some customers enforce full-time and quite sort of 3 to 4 days in the office a week. Reasoning behind that is around working practices, knowledge transfer and sharing, you know, especially with regards to new generations coming up and needing that in-person training, etc., etc. And we've actually started working with a few customers in the startup space recently who are insisting actually that their IT leaders are pretty much ever present and very much in person, sort of at least 5 days a week for the first sort of 3 to 6 months while they embed and get their visibility really embedded within the organization, and that's stakeholder relationship piece sorted. So it's an interesting time, and I think we're going to go through a little bit of a challenge actually. Organizations will go through a bit of a challenge over the next 12 months in terms of how to get their employee contracts right, flexible working policies, etc., etc. But you know, so far so good, and it's definitely improved the diversity piece, which is brilliant.
Fantastic. And Tom, I mean, you're clearly you're sort of a leader of a large IT team, so and with an academy as well. So it talks about that sort of that piece from Louise about apprenticeships and that training. Do you feel like you're settling on a model now for the team?
Well, obviously, Mark, we operate a hybrid model in terms of that side. Dare I say, it is around driving that innovation, driving that collaboration on the one hand, working with people, but equally, you know, dare I say, how many times I come into the office and I end up spending most of my time on Teams calls or Zoom calls, things of that nature, and you then think, well, hang on, well, I've commuted for an hour in, commuted an hour back, and I could have spent that time productively working in my office pod at home. You always strike the happy medium there, and it's recognizing those two things. You know, we are in that virtual world, collaboration, etc. You know, we do projects as Crimson all around the country, and invariably we can do them remote. That's one thing that COVID and this working, we can use technology with Teams, Zoom, etc. to collaborate. And if anything, on the one hand, I could argue that we do more collaboration, and in different centres, you can argue that one countries actually we're more productive in some cases because you can get your head down and focus and avoid distractions in the office if you're in at times. But it's striking that happy medium, because you want that knowledge share. You want to be able to go in. They bring back the good old days. I can come into the office, get the whiteboard out, and you can be bouncing ideas off on a whiteboard. And just getting it out there, get the flip charts out, get it going in that context, those sort of things. You still need that direction going on in that context.
And also on that point, Tom, people are very different, aren't they, in terms of what forms of communication they require to really feel connected to their teams. And there are challenges around a little bit of loneliness, a little bit of feeling disconnected from the sort of core culture of an organization. So to your point, I agree, there's many advantages of being able to have that work-life balance and working from home for many individuals, especially within the tech space, who really embrace it. I think those of us that probably have that more required day-to-day environment of being with and around a lot of people may struggle. So it's really trying to get the balance right. And the truth is, it's having a combination of everything, isn't it? And making teams, get together when necessary, and to have those brainstorming sessions, like you say, and sharing ideas and thoughts, and also sometimes for those sensitive conversations as well. But equally, there's definitely a lot of advantages with people not having to do the daily grind of commute.
And so, and obviously, we can't ignore it. It is a key factor in attracting and retaining staff. We can't ignore that now. People have got used to this hybrid way of working, and that comes to the fore. When we're trying, when we're recruiting, we have to consider that. We now have a number of our consultants that are all dispersed across the United Kingdom. It gives us flexibility on the one hand, because if we've got clients in a particular area, they can, we can geographically based, they can go and see that client face to face. But equally, we can, dare I say, we get the flexibility of them working on projects around the country remotely, etc.
The challenge for customers is, sorry, Tom. I was just going to say, the challenge for customers a bit like us is being really clear on exactly what you are advertising when you're going to market for a role, because actually there is a requirement to be flexible, but equally candidates are ruling out opportunities on the basis of what hybrid working policies there are. And I think because organizations haven't necessarily uniformly set those mandates in place, they're still operating in quite a flexible fashion. It's starting to cause a bit of confusion, I think, with regards to bringing new talent on, like you say. But
it depends on the organizations, the maturity of the organizations, and dare I say it, a lot of organizations do have big expensive buildings in places like London, and if they're empty, then why am I paying for this building then? You're getting a lot of that equally coming at you as well, in terms of 100% in that context. So it's understanding the dynamics of all of this and mixing it up in that context. But I think it's fair to say that being full-time in the office, invariably, I think that's probably, I don't think you'll see that trend coming back unless you're into specific roles in an organisation. I think, unfortunately, it is this new way of working.
Brilliant. Well, I think that probably wraps it up for today. It's been lovely to have you both on to share all your knowledge and experience. And as I say, if you are interested in downloading the Digital Leadership Report, if you go to bit.ly/DLR23, you can download the report. There's plenty more information in there that we could way more than we could squeeze in today. But again, Lou, Tom, thank you for your time. I'll let you go now. It's have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, Mark. And it's definitely opened our eyes up, hasn't it? And I think we're going to have to track this over the next 12 months and see how things evolve. But no, pleasure. Thanks both.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you both. Thank you. Okay, well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Always leave your comments in the chat or wherever you may find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or whether you're now listening to us on audio podcast. The next show, we might try and squeeze another one in before Christmas. We have got a couple of content ideas, but the next show I know for certain is Thursday, the 4th of January, and we'll be revealing the salary survey, the IT salary survey. Always a really popular report. If you're interested in learning about what salary you should be earning, maybe, or at your team, lots of really fantastic insight there. But that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again soon on the Digital Lounge.